You're already under oath to tell the truth. You've already violated that oath twice today in just those two examples. It seems absurd to instruct you again that you must tell the truth while you testify, yet here I am. You must tell the truth while you testify. This is not your show.
You just heard from the judge in the Alex Jones defamation trial. He's already been found guilty for defamation after he very clearly and repeatedly defamed the parents who lost their children as a result of the Sandy Hook massacre. He called them actors. He referred to that mass shooting as a false flag operation meant to take guns away from law-abiding citizens. And that led to all sorts of lunatics within his audience attacking the parents who were already suffering with the extreme emotional distress of losing their children as a result of a cold-blooded mass shooter who was on their campus. Now, what's incredible about this trial, aside from the fact that it has taken years to get to this point, is the fact that much like other incredibly entitled individuals, Alex Jones has been caught lying under oath many times. He started testifying in this trial yesterday. His second day of testimony took place today. And it has been a complete and utter disaster for Jones. Now, since he's already been found guilty of defamation, the real question now is, what will the jury award the plaintiffs in terms of compensatory damages? How much money will Alex Jones have to pay? And that is what they're trying to determine through this trial. Now, lying under oath, I shouldn't have to tell you, is a big deal. When you are testifying, you have to tell the truth or else you perjure yourself. And apparently Alex Jones is a big fan of doing just that. Let's watch.
Mr. Jones, you may not say to this jury that you complied with discovery. That is not true. You may not say it again. You may not tell this jury that you are bankrupt. That is also not true. You may have filed for bankruptcy. I don't know that, but I've heard that. That doesn't make a person or a company bankrupt. You need to slow down and not take what you see as opportunities to further the message you're wanting to further. And instead, only answer the specific and exact question you have been asked. No asides. The comments about discovery, the comments about the larynx or whatever it was, the comments about bankruptcy, none of those were responsive to questions.
None of those were responsive to questions. And she specifically calls him out on things that he lied about while testifying during this trial. Now, he loves to bring up the bankruptcy issue because he purports to be broke. But what I thought was really fascinating about today's testimony was that he was asked by the plaintiff's attorney about the amount of money, the revenue that Alex Jones and his company brings in. And it's telling how Alex Jones has really ripped a page out of the book of all these corporations who do terrible things. They get sued, and when it looks like they're about to pay out a massive settlement, they'll file for bankruptcy to avoid having to pay out a big settlement. He's taking a page out of their book and he's trying to do the same thing. The question is whether he will be able to do that. And what I love about the plaintiff's attorney is that he's done his homework and he has revealed, it's incredibly depressing, but he's revealed just how much money Alex Jones brings in. Somewhere around $740,000 a day, close to $1 million a day, just by selling these garbage supplements that are not FDA approved, that have no evidence of its efficacy. It doesn't matter. Apparently there are enough people who watch his show and who are convinced that these supplements might make them insta-hard, that they spend their hard-earned money on the snake oil that this huckster sells on his programming. There were other telling moments in his testimony that we'll get to in just a moment. It's the moment that I'm sure you might have seen already, but before we get to that, I wanna give you some more context about who else testified in this trial. Scarlett Lewis and Neil Heslin, who are the parents of Jesse Lewis. Jesse was actually killed in the 2012 shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. They're seeking $150 million in damages from the Infowars radio show and webcast host and his media company in a defamation trial. And they had a psychologist testify about what the parents have been going through. And imagine, I mean, look, you don't really need an expert to tell you. If you're human and you feel anything at all, it's easy to understand. Just losing your child the way that these parents have is horrific enough, is psychologically damaging enough. But to add insult to injury by making these victims, by making these parents targets for these lunatics who believe the nonsense that Alex Jones spews, of course it's gonna cause huge psychological issues. And so a forensic psychologist who testified said Heslin and Lewis suffered from PTSD. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I'd venture to say it goes well beyond PTSD, which is obviously bad enough. Now, there was another moment in the trial today that I thought was worth sharing with you all, and it was when Alex Jones was called out on another lie. Now, the reason why Alex Jones was found guilty of defamation, it was a default judgment by the judge, who, by the way, he has accused of being a child trafficker. Maybe not a good idea to do that on your programming when you're standing trial and the judge, presides over this trial. But he's an idiot, so of course he's accusing her of insane things like being involved with pedophiles. Great idea, real smart guy there. The reason why the judge made a default judgment here in finding him guilty for defamation is because during a lawsuit like this, a civil lawsuit like this, the plaintiffs ask for certain documents. It's part of the discovery process. And Alex Jones would not comply. He would not hand over those documents. Alex Jones was asked under oath whether he had any text message exchanges in which he discussed the Sandy Hook story. He said, no, not at all. I don't, sorry. He said that under oath. Okay, great. Well, today something interesting happened and it showed the incompetence of not just Alex Jones, but his own attorneys. So let's watch this moment where the plaintiff's attorney asks Alex Jones about those very text messages.
Bottom left corner, is that your phone number?
Yes. So you did get my text messages. And it said you didn't. Nice trick.
Yes, Mr. Jones. Oh. Indeed. You didn't give this text message to me. You don't know where this came from. Do you know where I got this?
No.
Mr. Jones, did you know that 12 days ago, your attorneys messed up and sent me an entire digital copy of your entire cell phone with every text message you've sent for the past 2 years, and when informed, did not take any steps to identify it as privileged or protect it in any way. And as of 2 days ago, it fell free and clear into my possession. And that is how I know you lied to me when you said you didn't have text messages about Sandy Hook. Did you know that?
I told you the truth. This is your Perry Mason moment. I gave them my phone, and then
Mr. Jones, you need to answer the question.
Did you know this happened?
No, I didn't know this happened.
No, I didn't know this happened. See, I told you the truth, except I didn't. I lied under oath and said that I didn't have any text exchanges conversing about the Sandy Hook story. He got caught. But what's amazing about that moment is how the hell did his lawyers make that colossal mistake of sending the entirety of a digital copy of Alex Jones's phone to the plaintiff's attorney? And then when they had an opportunity to make a big stink about that and prevent that from being, presented in court, they passed up that opportunity. It's weird. I mean, maybe his attorneys have somewhat of a conscience and realize that he's a terrible person who did a terrible thing in further victimizing parents whose children were slaughtered by a gunman. I don't know. But he doesn't need incompetent attorneys to lose this trial because he himself is so unbelievably, it's either incompetence or honestly a level of entitlement that I have never seen anywhere before. Because he seems to think that certain rules of the court do not apply to him. He's not supposed to talk about the trial outside of the courtroom, and he has been talking about it on the show. He's not supposed to talk about the trial outside of the courtroom, yet the second he leaves the courtroom, he talks to the press and he accuses the judge of all sorts of insane things. He even went after the jurors, claiming that these jurors, they ain't with it. I'm paraphrasing, but he even attacked the jurors, and that came up during this trial as well. I mean, this guy is his own worst enemy. He's like coughing constantly, complaining about some sort of throat issue he has. It's a mess. But what you can't run away from, even with all of the sideshows and even with all the circus atmosphere that we're seeing in this trial, can't run away from the fact that there are hours and hours of this man, along with his co-hosts and staffers, lying and defaming the victims of Sandy Hook for profit. It's really important to understand that, because why would anyone do that? Like, what's the incentive? Who in their right mind would feel any type of pleasure in victimizing parents whose little kids were killed? He's making a lot of money off of it. And then he has the gall to pretend that he's broke, that he's bankrupt, that he's really suffering, that he's the real victim here. I'm sorry, I don't think anyone's buying it. Now, I don't know what the end result will be. This is the first of 3 trials to determine compensatory damages, because there are several families who have been defamed by this man, or the sad excuse for a man. So we'll see what happens. The jurors being insulted by him, the judge being insulted by him, multiple examples of him lying under oath, I would argue does not bode well for Alex Jones. But for anyone who might have been persuaded by Alex Jones and his commentary, for anyone who might think that he's a good guy and sometimes he gets things right, understand that this trial has made it very clear that Alex Jones knew he was lying, he was intentionally lying, and he was doing it for profit. And if he's willing to do that in regard to victims who lost their children in a mass shooting, ask yourselves, what other stories is he willing to do that on? And I think that the plaintiff's attorney also did a fantastic job in outlining all of the other tragic stories, all of the other tragic mass shootings, bombings that have occurred in this country that Alex Jones lied about, that Alex Jones claimed was a deep state operation. He claimed that the Boston bombing was some sort of conspiracy. And it's because, look, I get it, it draws an audience. People have lost faith in our institutions. I think that's actually the root of the problem here. Why is it that someone like Alex Jones is able to cultivate the kind of audience that he's able to cultivate? That is a deeper problem that I think needs to be addressed. But there's no mistake, Alex Jones is definitely a symptom of that deeper problem, and he should suffer the consequences of what he has taken part in.